Welcome, everyone. I'll now open the meeting of the 21st of August, regular council meeting. And just before I do that, I will say that we have Mr. Nepsey, the Director of Infrastructure and Development, filling in for our acting CAO, Mrs. Hunter, for the next couple of weeks. So that's why Chris is sitting on my left to advise me. Councillor Vokes is called in sick today, not feeling well, and thanks to Councillor Bondi, we do have a meeting tonight because she almost called in. If Randy hadn't, she probably would have. So thanks, Councillor Bondi. Welcome back to Eva also. So, okay, so the meeting is now on the go. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? No, thank you very much. Now, Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Your Worship. Under adoption of published agenda, I just have a couple of amendments or additions to the agenda. Under 8.3 of the agenda, the reference to the request for the street closure should be until 8 p.m. The BIA contacted our Director of Community Services this morning and clarified that the request is actually from 2 o'clock to 8 p.m. So if I can have, I'm looking for the agenda to reflect that. Secondly, under our public presentation 6.1, the outdoor pool feasibility study, Council was provided with a copy of the formal final report of the Harrow Outdoor Pool Feasibility Study. That was added to the public site this morning, and I'm looking to add that to the formal agenda this evening. And then lastly, under 15.1.1 on the agenda cover, the notice of motion should read, moved by Mayor McDermott. And that is all, Your Worship.
Sir, are there any other notices of motion or anything? No? Okay, so we're looking for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Bjorkman, Councillor Snively, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
5.1 on the agenda, adoption of the minutes from the regular council meeting held August 8, 2017.
Councillor Bondi and Councillor Snively, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Your Worship, our first public presentation this evening under 6.1 on the agenda is the University of Windsor Entrepreneurship, Practice and Innovation Center, otherwise known as EPIC program. I believe we have Mr. Alex Steele and Mr. Ben DeGroot here from the university, and they're presenting a presentation and their report on the outdoor pool feasibility study for Harrow.
Welcome, young lady and gentlemen. I haven't got your names on here, so I can't call you by name. So anyways, welcome, and you have the mics, just need to have the purple button pushed and it'll be on.
This works? It's good? Yeah. Okay. Hello, everybody. My name is Ben DeGroot. I'm a third-year entrepreneurship and strategy student at the Odette School of Business at the University of Windsor.
Hello, my name is Alex Steele. I'm a graduating fourth-year business student at the Odette School of Business, graduating as well in strategy and entrepreneurship.
And we're here today to present our outdoor pool feasibility study for the town of Harrow. So here's the agenda. We'll start with our project purpose, get into our research methodology, look at the demographics, we'll look at the sites that we analyzed, look at the financial information, and then provide our recommendations at the end.
So just going to the purpose here, we were tasked with conducting a feasibility study for the town of Essex regarding the installation of an outdoor pool in the Harrow and Colchester area. Specifically, we're looking at the community benefit to the key stakeholders, which are the youth, the senior population, local businesses, as well as an interest group, the Harrow Electric Eels aquatic team, also known as HEAT. And so in doing our feasibility study, we primarily focused on primary research and secondary research with our primary research being an open house for the pool. This was more or less just to get community feedback into what the community felt, to understand what their desires were for a pool, if they wanted this pool or not. We do want to address here that we only have had about 1% of the population turnout, about 25 people or so. And the majority of those people were involved in heat in some way, shape, or form. So this does skew our results a little bit. We just wanted to kind of point out that there's only about a couple people who were not involved, so just so that you're aware of that. For our secondary research, we looked at comparable options, other pools in Ontario that were recently built or things like that were provided to us by the town of Essex. Additionally, we looked at Statistics Canada and the demographic information there, looked at some relevant news articles, as well as reviewed a similar feasibility study conducted in the US.
So here's some demographic information. This shows population information from Harrow next to the town of Essex, next to Ontario in total. So the big red flag is the population percentage change over the last 5 years, where the province was growing almost 5%. Harrow as a town actually decreased. So not necessarily ideal for a pool to have a shrinking population. And the other red flag is the population distribution, which has fewer children and a higher percentage of those over 65.
So we were pointed towards 3 potential sites, the first being the Harrow Arena, which primarily consisted of the former Harrow District High School property that would have had to be purchased in order to install a pool at this location. There'd also have to be some renovations done to the Harrow Arena site to accommodate change rooms and things of that nature. The second option was Harrow Soccer Complex. This location didn't need as many renovations, however, there would still have to be some form of cost, but you wouldn't have to acquire any additional land. And the third option was Colchester Harbor. This location has quite a bit of amenities already being planned to be put in, so there are some concerns there. So when we went to these sites initially for our site visit, we did prepare a small, like a very short kind of site comparison, comparing the different options, the pros and the cons of each site. So just to point out kind of what really stood out to us for all these locations, with the Harrow Arena, you'll see the majority of green check marks there. It had basically the best location as far as community benefit. It's centrally located, accessible to pretty much all of the stakeholders that we were looking at. There were some concerns about the facilities and maybe the zoning. With the soccer complex, the land is already purchased. The land use around the area is growing more increasingly industrial. So there were some concerns that we kind of proposed that it may be perceived to be less healthy in that area. Whether or not that's actually true or not, if parents don't feel that it looks like it's a very healthy place to send their children to swim, they may choose not to send them there, so this is a bit of a concern. And with the final location, Colchester Harbor, it's a very busy location, so we had to put a few X's in there. It also isn't as accessible to the primary location, or the primary population and the stakeholders we were looking at, which is primarily in the Harrow area. But it did have maybe potential for more recreational use overall throughout the season.
So here we're going to look at some financial information. So this is a list of comparable pools that were provided to us by the client. The third one down into the Tecumseh pool is the one that we felt was the most relevant as far as the specifications that the client was looking for in a pool. So here's the costs. Finding a capital cost was quite difficult. Their numbers ranged from $1 million to $6 million for a pool, but the number that we felt was the most reasonable for a project of this size was a $3.2 million upfront cost, with an operational cost of about $80,000 to $100,000 per season, which wouldn't be necessarily awful if it was a year-long operation, but it's fairly steep for just the 9-week season between when school's out and Labor Day, which is when it sees the most use. Some additional costs for the Harrow Arena complex were land acquisition and facility addition. The soccer complex, though it has a good facility, would need some renovations, and that would go the same for the Colchester Harbor location. So then this would be how you get some money back for operational costs, the revenue piece. A $3.50 to $4 admission is about average around here, which could bring in between $9,000 and $17,000 depending on demand, which would still run an operational loss of between $62,000 and $84,000, or about $7,000 to $9,500 weekly. Additional revenue sources were lessons, rentals, which typically run from about $100 to $125 per hour, and then other fitness programs. And then other capital cost offsets, though we were apprehensive to attach a dollar figure to them, were naming rights, potential private fundraisers, as well as grants for the government.
So basically, to sum everything up, we kind of recommend that Harrow isn't really an ideal candidate for an outdoor pool due to the shrinking population and a fairly large deficit for only a 9-week operation for an outdoor pool. However, we understand that for some public projects, the feasibility isn't exactly the primary reason to move forward. So if you do decide to move forward with this, we would recommend the Harrow Arena. Although it is the most expensive option, it provides the greatest community benefit for the community that you're trying to service. It has a central location, it's accessible to seniors as well as youth. There's ample parking, and all these things can be kind of expanded upon if you choose to acquire additional land in the area. So for these reasons, we thank you for listening to our presentation, and do you have any questions?
Thank you very much for that report. I don't know how many hours it took you, but you did a good job.
Roughly 80.
Yeah. One question I have, Mr. DeGroot, does your
Yes.
dad happen to be your Bert?
No.
No, okay. Good
No.
enough. Thanks. I worked with him for a long time. Council members, any questions? Councilor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Well, now we have somebody that's done all the legwork for us and provided us with some really useful information. As you know, that's my ward, and this is a conversation that has come up over the past 7 years since I've been there. You know, what about a pool in Harrow? What about a pool in Harrow? And council has always, you know, never really entertained the idea because we didn't really think it was feasible. Now the numbers show it's not feasible, but at least we can go to the residents and say, you know, we've done this exercise, here's some data for you to look at. Unfortunately, it doesn't look favorable to us. Doesn't mean council still can't have that conversation, but it's a big uphill battle, and with so many competing priorities going on in the municipality, is this one more block we want to throw on, right? Like, we still we still need to fund portions of our twin pad here, in Essex Center. So I thank you for your information, and I think it's going to be useful for the residents so that they can look at it and really see it brings a thing of subjectivity, and it makes it more objective, saying, you know, look at the operating costs, look at the starting up capital costs, like, look at the population. Is this really something that we want to invest taxpayer dollars into? Now, that being said, if somebody came by and wanted to give us a couple $1 million towards it, well, then it'd be a little more feasible. But unfortunately, we all know that doesn't happen too often. So I'd like to thank you for all your time and efforts into the work, and I really, truly appreciate having the information.
Thank you for that. Councilor Bjorkman?
Thank you, through your worship. Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. It was easy to read, and the supplementary information you sent as well was really good. It's just great to have empirical data to make decisions with. I thought it gave us a lot to work with, as Councillor Bondi saying, you know, we get the question all the time. It's hard to just have an answer where, well, we'll need to look into it. So fortunately, we have data that's looked into it. But anything can happen, and as she's saying, there are government programs that come along, and if we don't have a plan, if we don't have something to start with, then you're out of the game anyway. So at least we have an understanding of where the areas are that would be best. It can help us. I thought it was very interesting, the conclusions you came to regarding the soccer field area as well. Just with the lack of use that's there, we really do need to find ways to use that and to get the benefit to the community of that property. So there were other things in your report that didn't necessarily have to do with the pool that I gleaned from that there are areas for us to work on there as well. I guess a discussion, Councillor Bondi, that we could enter into even with the heat, if we're not going to go forward with a pool, perhaps there's an opportunity to look at them as far as cost sharing and transportation. Can they use the pool in Essex? I realize that the hardship there is getting to Essex, and the transportation's not always there, but as opposed to putting in a facility in Harrow, this is still an Essex facility and they're still an Essex resident. Is there a way we can help them with that? Maybe it's not every practice is there, but maybe some of them could be held there. So that might be something that we could look at to help that group. But again, thank you very much. It was a very good report, really encompassing. I appreciate it. Thank you.
It was our pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it? Nothing else? I would just ask, did they get a passing mark? I take it that you're the professor, or just mom, or?
Yes, I'm Francine Schlosser. I'm the executive director at Epicenter, and I'm also their professor for this course, for the consulting course.
So they did get a passing grade?
Oh, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yes. They did
Thank you
more
very
than
much.
pass. This was half of their grade. The other half is in other projects. They get 2 projects each term. So in this particular one, Ben led this one, whereas Alex was on another project with Hotel Dieu, and he led that one, and Ben was on another project with Radix. So yeah, they've been busy.
Okay. I think Sarah has something to add to this, no? Okay, well, thank you anyway. So we're looking for a motion to receive the presentation and the report. Councillor Snively and Councillor Bondi, any questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you very much, and
Thank you.
good luck ahead of you.
Six 6.2 on the agenda, Your Worship, under public presentations, is Mr. Ryan Giles from RFG Plumbing, Inc. They requested a delegation this evening in reference to their town billboard lease and concerns with recent requested amendments to the sign wording.
Thank you. I don't see any strangers here, so I do not think they're here. Right? Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Next one is unfinished business, and the unfinished business is the mayor forgot to mention that Deputy Mayor Malash is absent this evening because he's on vacation, so thank you for that.
Agenda item 8.1 this evening is Fire Report 2017-003, re-surplus equipment. That said report be received and that council concurs with the recommendations contained in the report, and further that the town enter into an agreement to sell on an as-is basis a 1992 Spartan Phoenix engine to the Township of Peely for a purchase price of $8,000, and that the proceeds be transferred to the building and equipment replacement reserve for fire.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
8.2 is Planning Report 2017-33, re-ATM Pharmacies Limited Release of Securities. That said report be received and supported, and that the securities deposited in the amount of $5,000 be returned to the developer by the town.
Moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Any questions? All in favor? Carries.
8.3, Community Services Report 2017-022, Essex BIA, Escape into Essex, Fall in Love with Local. Looking for a receipt of the report, and that council approves the request to close Talbot Street between Victoria and Arthur between 2 p.m. and 8 p.m. on Friday, September 29th, 2017.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Carries.
Eight 8.4 on the agenda is Infrastructure and Development Report 2017-09, Ontario Municipal Commuter Cycling Program, OMCC, grant funding. Looking for a receipt of report for council's authorization to execute the application declaration, council to authorize the Director of Infrastructure to finalize the 2017 project list, and that the CAO be authorized to execute any other agreements or approvals required to submit an application for this grant funding program.
Moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Councillor Snively. Questions? Councillor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Worship. Through the acting CAO / infrastructure, just this is the application process. The projects that were on the list that we saw in the attachment. I'm just wondering, like, is this an apply and receive, or is this a competition for all of these asks?
Mr. Nepsey.
Through your worship, a little bit of both, I think, but we provide the list to the ministry. The list can be amended yearly, and then monies are provided based on a population kind of garner. So from everything that we're hearing, the money's there to be provided as long as the projects meet that need in terms of the grant request. So all signs point to good there.
Okay. Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 9 on the agenda, any reports from our youth member Ava Hoffman this evening?
I'd just like to say that I visited the youth center in Essex that they reopened for the summer, and I'm going to be working with Mr. Auger for some ideas concerning the center and some possible ideas for council recruiting youth members.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, the youth center open for the summer. When did it open?
It opened, I think, late May. That's when it was.
And who is running the youth center now?
They were students from the university, I think, or the college, one of the two.
The students are running it.
Yeah.
Okay. And do you know how many active people are using it? How many students?
I don't have any numbers, no.
Okay. And the programs, are they running programs out of there now, or?
They had a few programs on the calendar when I visited there, but I haven't visited in a month or so, so I don't know what they have in the past month.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see it opened again. So hopefully it stays open and we can help some kids on the street, you know.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's good news.
Anything else? Motion receive his report. Councillor Snively and Councillor Bundy. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries. Thank you for that, Eva.
Item 10 on the agenda, any updates from County Council?
Not at this time, sir.
Item 11.1, correspondence to be received. The minutes from the Union Water Supply System June 21st meeting.
Moved by Councillor Bundy, supported by Councillor Snively with a question.
Through your worship, at that meeting, do you know if the discussion come up about the algae bloom, how serious it is to the intake there? Was that discussed at all?
It was discussed, but there wasn't a problem at that time. That was, a couple weeks ago.
Because I see the algae bloom, you know, I see it all. I was at Pelee Island today, all the way to shore, it was nothing but green. And if anybody has a report, I'd like to hear it.
Mr. Nepsey.
And what is being done?
Through your worship, we've been in touch with Aqua, our clean water, Ontario Clean Water operators of the plant. The algae bloom is present, but since it's, you know, kind of the first prominent arrival several years ago, Aqua's developed a good operational defense against it. We end up shutting down our chlorine that's used to fend off zebra mussels at the water intake. The chlorine doesn't end up then killing the algae, which ends up then giving off the toxins. So it ends up just being trapped in the filter. So it's there, but it's being managed appropriately.
Okay. Further?
Further to that, your worship, I would like to see council administrative staff send a letter to our senior government and maybe explain to them what the situation, how serious it is down here. Because I think this year here is the worst I've ever seen it. And if the weather pattern stays the same year after year, it's only going to get worse. And I think the senior government should be pressured federally and provincially to do something. So I would request that a letter go out to the senior government and just let them, they know how serious the problem is, but we are concerned as a council. So I'd like to see a letter sent out if I can get that support.
Okay, supported by Councillor Bjorkman.
And the county council.
Okay, yep. Okay. Anything further, all in favor? Yep, that was the motion. Yep.
Receiving the correspondence
Yeah.
together with the direction.
Right.
Okay.
Motion receive and the direction that you put forth. Councillor Snively, Councillor Bundy, okay?
Okay. Thank you.
All in favor? Motion carries.
Your Worship, 11.2.1 on the agenda is a request from a Fred Bishop from 375 Erie View Avenue. Mr. Bishop is requesting permission to erect a fence between Craig Beach and Lonsberry Beach. And we have together, as correspondence, his request letter together with his application for a permit for that fence.
Could we, would we, I think I'd be right in asking our administration for, oh, okay,
You don't have him as a delegate.
okay. Just so Dan may speak, Councillor Bundy? Yep. Councillor Bundy and Councillor Snively, questions? All in favor of that motion? Motion carries. Welcome, Dan. That purple button, I guess.
Okay.
Now, the reason you're sitting here, I'm not straight on this.
I represent Fred Bondi.
Oh, you do, okay.
Fred Bishop,
Fred
sorry.
Bishop, okay. That was my next question.
He's an American, he's down in Virginia, I'm his realtor.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Trying to solve a problem for him. So you want me to talk about it?
I
Okay,
guess.
so the end of the road is the last house on that street. It's the property next door, which is an eyesore because there's all kinds of junk and stuff laying around, and he uses it as a secondary exit for large trucks to come in and unload stuff into his property. When I sold Mr. Bishop the property a year ago, that was a concern for his, and the property is still a disaster. So it is actually the end of the road, so we're just asking for permission to run a fence along his fence line directly across the road. So we don't have to look at the junkyard.
Okay, Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, has there ever been an order, Kevin, on that property he's talking about?
To Mr. Carter, our building inspector.
Through your worship, no, there has not been.
Has there ever been a complaint on that property?
Through your worship, just recently, as of last week,
And
is the first.
further, have we acted on that complaint yet?
Not as yet.
Okay, so we're going to act on that complaint. You have seen the situation down there yet?
Yes, we have. The town of Essex will react on this complaint.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Bondi? Oh, and then Councillor Snively.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On the map that we have, I'm assuming that the red line is the fence. And 373, is that the person who is in fraction of the bylaws? How would 373, how do they get to their house? That's my only
He
question.
gets out on his own exit onto the other road.
Okay, because it looks like, to me, it looks like 369 is in his way, but it's not.
You can see kind of the road there following the red line up to Lonsberry. He makes a left and goes out. That's his actual exit.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Snively?
Through your worship, I know the property, and I know it's a mess. I do know it's a mess. And he's requesting put a fence all the way across there, right?
Correct. So that when you pull up to his house, the first thing you do not see is a junkyard. So
I really don't blame the man, but What I'm saying is, if we can get it cleaned up, if we can put an order on it and get it completely cleaned up, would he be happy with that? Do you know?
No, the neighbors want it closed also because he has big delivery trucks coming down there, backing down there and blocking traffic onto his, when he unloads going onto his property, so. It's not his road, that's the point, so.
And he is licensed to operate out of there.
I don't know, he runs a cabinet manufacturing business out of his barn there. I don't know if he's legal or
But
not.
this is what we got to find out. I mean, we got to find out if it's a legal business and big trucks going down there. That's what I'm concerned about, Dan.
Yeah,
You know, because we have business popping up all over the place, and let's make sure that it's a legal business first. And the property should be cleaned up. There's no question about it. And,
yeah, we weren't going to put a complaint in as long as we can get the fence up, he can,
yeah.
so.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Nepsey, our acting CEO.
Through your worship, I think there's separate issues here that council needs to be looking at. There's the first issue of the property standards, which, following normal process, our bylaw enforcement officer is going to pursue. What we typically do, he's going to do an investigation and look into the property standards issue. The other issue is the alleged illegal business that's being run there, and as well, Mr. Carter, through his role as CBO and Property Standards Bylaw Enforcement Officer, will look into that as well. The third issue is erecting a fence on a public town-owned road. And that's not something that when I wear my Director of Infrastructure and Development hat, and I guess the CAO hat, is something that I would recommend as the town, as far as liability and cutting off access. He's adjacent to a town property. He has access to that town property. It's town road, no different than the road out front here or Irwin or whatnot. So the type of vehicle that's being driven there is really indifferent. It's a town road. So there's three separate issues. As acknowledged, Mr. Carter will investigate the property standards and the business aspect of it. With respect to the fence, as far as administration is concerned, that's not something that we would recommend erecting on town property.
Thank you for that, sir. Councilor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I agree with Mr. Nepsey. We need to go after this as a property standards issue. They need to take care of their business so the people that are directly joining them don't have to put up with a mess in the yard and a mess to look at coming down the road. However, it is a town road, as he's saying. That road abuts the property, and if he can, as an egress from his property onto that road, he can drive onto that road, regardless of whether or not his address is on Lonsberry. And that's kind of what it was. It's Lonsberry ends pretty much there, and Erie View ends there. There used to be trees along there that kept people from going back and forth. Well, those trees aren't there anymore. So as far as allowing a private citizen to build a fence on public property, I don't think we have, there's nothing there. So we have to go after this, in my view, as property standards, and get the neighbor to clean up his yard.
Sir, anything further? No? Okay. So, motion to receive the presentation and then in the correspondence. Okay, Councilor Snively and Councilor Bondi. Questions to that motion? Councilor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just looking for an approximate timeline. I feel that there's a sense of frustration with this resident, with Mr. Bishop being there, and I can understand why he wants to put the fence up, and it's unfortunate that the trees are no longer there. Maybe we can plant some trees. But just looking for an estimate on a timeline so we can provide Mr. Bishop with some form of closure so that he can say, you know, as of October, it's going to look better. So he's not waiting another year, right? Like, we all know how busy we all are. So a timeline, I think, would help.
The problem I have with this theory is there's a lot of beach roads, they're closed at each end. This is nothing unusual. I live on the beach, I know. A lot of them you cannot get from one beach to the next. He has his own exit on his own road.
Yeah, and since I've been around, Dan, we wish some of those beach roads did connect, but we can't connect them. It's too bad. Okay, I would say one thing to Councillor Bondi's statement, that maybe we could put some bushes in there, not trees, but bushes where people can't see it, as bad as it may be in the future. I don't know. But anyways,
Well,
it's not our, yeah, but it's not our road. That's it, Dan. We got a motion on the table. We can't speak to you. So we can't let you speak now because we have a motion on the floor. So anything further to the motion? Timeline. Okay, Mr. Carter.
Through your worship, the best case scenario, 30 days. Worst case scenario, 6 months, with no appeals. No appeals, 30 days. With appeals, 6 months.
That's the process, sorry. Okay.
Can I ask one
Is that
question?
the rest? Now, well, I'll let you after. Anything else? All in favor of the motion? Motion carries. Mr. Inverary.
Would we be allowed to put hedges along there? Would the town have a problem with that, if you're not going to give us permission to do a fence? It's greenery.
I don't know, we need I don't know the answer. Maybe these gentlemen could. Does Mr. Nepsey say, I wouldn't recommend it? Like, what do we do? Can we or can't we? It's not our property, it's town property. Like, it's his property. Can we put bushes on his property? I don't think so. Maybe we could get him to do it, but, okay. Mr. Nepsey says the real issue is the property standards issue. So that's Mr. Carter's baby, right? So you will get back to us as soon as you can. Okay? Okay, Dan?
Okay.
Oh, we got a couple more questions here. Councillor Snively and Councillor Bondi.
Your worship, to Mr. Nepsey. If this property, if he wants to put bushes on his property, we can't stop him from doing that. So, and that's what you're asking, isn't it? You're not asking us to put it
No.
on our property.
Well, we would have to put it across the road, and it would be your
Well,
property.
yeah.
Councillor Bondi, you had your hand up too.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think one of the other concerns is commercial vehicles driving on that road. So when we clean up the property standards and investigate the commercial vehicles, that might clean up that issue too. If there is trucks backing. Yeah, well, if it's illegal, if the trucks dropping off supplies are illegal on that little gravel road, then that would be cleaned up, all in the property standards issue. Next time, don't come to council, plant the bushes. That's what I would have done.
Okay, Dan, just hit that purple button and that one will be off for
Right.
us. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yep.
Eleven point two on the agenda is correspondence from Donna Steinhoff, that the email correspondence advising of the resignation from the Essex Center BIA be received with regret, and that bylaw 1376 be amended accordingly.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Snively. Any questions? All in favor? Letter with regrets and thanking her. Okay, thanks.
Item 15 on the agenda is notices of motion. 15.1 are the notices of motion that were presented, or in which notice was given at the August 8th regular council meeting and are being brought for consideration this evening. Our acting CAO has a few follow-up comments in regards to these notices of motion.
And we'll do that right now. Mr. Nepsey.
Thank you. Through your worship, I just want to make a few comments with respect to this notice of motion section in the agenda. I want to, I guess, applaud council. I think although we have a lot of them, I think this is the direction that makes sense and works and allows transparency for the public to see what's coming up to be discussed on the agenda. The only thing I think when going through some of these items, if council can present them to administration, maybe prior to that actual meeting, there's the possibility that some of these can be addressed in an operational fashion and not have to come to the agenda and wait the 2 weeks again to be brought forward and acted on. So it's a little bit of a vetting process, maybe, not for us to say yay or nay to them, but maybe to be able to facilitate and expedite them. So I think that's all I think moving forward. If that's something council can keep in mind, the sooner they get them to us, potentially the sooner we can deal with them, so.
Thank you very much for that. So my notice of motion, I guess, should I make that while I'm in the chair or get out of the chair?
Well, 15.1.1, Your Worship, on the agenda is your notice of motion in regards to use of iPhones, iPads to communicate during council meeting. We would need a mover and a seconder for the motion, first of all. And right now, the motion reads that the use of iPhones, iPads, and other electronic devices to communicate during council meetings be limited.
So that's my motion, and I do need a seconder. Councillor Bondi. And with that, I will vacate my chair, and I would ask Councillor Snively, who's done this in the past, to take over the seat of chair. Thank you, sir.
So, Your Worship, if you want to talk about your notice of motion,
Okay.
you're more than welcome.
Like I think, well, I know, we all know that my cell phone, I left it on the table over there. These things are for emergency uses only. And that hasn't been going on. It hasn't happened. I just want to read something like our procedural bylaw states and our code of conduct also states. And we haven't been following this in spite of the many, many times, and I didn't say tonight, could everyone turn off their electronics, please? I have so many people say, what are they doing with those phones? They should be paying attention to what's going on, the business of the town. That's why we elected them. But anyways, just this one paragraph, smartphone usage in meetings. During meetings of council, committees, and local boards, council members shall turn their smartphones to vibrate. Use of smartphones during meetings shall be restricted to answering emergency calls only. In the case of an emergency call, council members shall excuse themselves from the meeting and take the call in another room or area. Now, I do know there's other municipalities in the county, some leave them in a basket, some have them on there, and if it goes off, they said they turn them on so everybody can hear what's going on. But, it's so distracting, not only for someone that's out there and they're looking at us and we're down like this. We're doing this. Am I listening to them? No. And they impugn the integrity of our whole council when 1 or 3 or 5 do this. So I know I've been given heck before because I look at a council member when they're talking to me. I look at whoever talks to me. I was taught that as a youngster. Hey, if you're talking to me, if I'm looking at you, I'm paying attention. But if I'm looking at that guy over here, I'm not paying attention to you. I think you would think that because that's what I think. So I'm making this motion, so if somebody breaks this, I'm going to come down hard on us. I can. I have the authority to put these phones in the other room. Not even use them, but I don't want to go there. Like we're a group of grown-ups that let's go by our rules. That's all I want to do. So I've made this motion that we'll deal with it, hopefully, the right way. That emergencies, hey, I don't mind somebody being on the phone, but not for the uses I've seen, and some of us say, I never do that. Well, I got proof that we do that. So, there's not one of us, I don't think. I shouldn't say that. But anyways, that's where I'm coming from. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, Your Worship. Is there any questions from council? Councillor Bjorkman?
Thank you, through the chair. And Mr. Mayor, I agree with you as far as smartphone usage should be limited. Again, my comment that I wrote to myself over here was define limited. Define limited, define emergency. I prefer to use emergencies, just not the right term for us anymore. There are priorities that we have that we need to be in touch with, not just here at this table, but at all times. I've been using my phone tonight because my iPad is in Jack's office because it went on the blink. So for me to keep up, there was a couple of presentations tonight and things I wanted to keep up with, so I was flipping through my iPhone, and generally I have my iPad. I don't use my phone, but there I am tonight. I had to go through here to keep up. So it is a tool that we use now. I really believe 10 years from now, we're going to have little GoPro cameras in our glasses, and we're going to be streaming everything that goes on in here straight out to the web, and anybody who wants to is going to be up to real time. So I believe this is a technology that is coming and that we need to evolve with. I still agree, it's not, I don't want to see people posting on Facebook, Instagram, those kinds of things that are going on. I made a suggestion in a group that we were working with that maybe we should have a staff member who would be responsible for, as information was happening, have a council Twitter account, and you could follow along and they could tweet out as we made motions and passed things that were important to the town. They could go out immediately on that and people could follow it. However, there are times where people need to get a hold of us, and a text to me is much easier to respond to, much less hassle than a phone call. So when it comes to saying, okay, if you get a phone call, go out of the room and take it. If I got a text and it was something I'd been waiting for, or an announcement, or somebody had to send something, 15 seconds, it's back. So back to your statement about us being adults. We are adults. We are responsible, and we're responsible to the people that are here and the people that are on camera and the people that are in our community to pay attention. While we're busy texting something out, we may miss the one important thing we were waiting to hear all night, or the one thing that would have changed a decision we might make. So I agree that we can't have constant use of it, but there is a point in time where I believe that they can be a tool, and yes, for an emergency or a priority information, I think we need access to them. But we do need to limit ourselves and to not do it when somebody's making a presentation to us or speaking to us in a group. That's my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Councillor. Anybody else? Councillor Bondi?
Thank you, Mr. Snively, Chair, Mayor in the chair there. So I agree that the use of cell phones and electronic devices should definitely be limited during council meetings. And I believe that much of this conversation is in reference to a July 24th post that I put on Facebook. And so in the future, if there is something that I have done that upsets you, approach me and say, Councillor Bondi, or whoever it is, Councillor Frank Smith, that I did not like, I found offensive. I think that right now we could be using our time discussing better projects and be, working on other things rather than debating this. I felt like coming to council tonight was like I was going into military battle. I was like, dun, 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 dun. Like times are changing. We used to have paper agendas. Then we went, then there was a change to laptops, and I'm sure that was painful. Then there was a change to iPads, and I'm sure that was painful. My residents in my ward are used to me being, I don't do Twitter yet. I'm just kind of dipping my feet into Twitter, but they're used to me updating them on Facebook, and I update them a lot. Not during meetings. July 24th, I admit, I posted a post on Facebook during a meeting. It wasn't a meeting in this room, it was a meeting at Town Hall. I was very upset during that meeting. That's a whole other story. But if there's ever a problem with anything I'm doing, I feel like I'm approachable. Talk to me. Mr. Mayor, you can talk to us at any time. So, I can agree with limited use. I also have babysitters at times. I have a sick baby at home right now. I feel it's less disruptive to send a quick text, how is she doing, than it is me walking out and leaving. I don't know when an emergency phone call is going to come in, so I literally have to set my phone up here and watch it, where right now I can just kind of every 20 minutes just look. I'm probably the only one in the region that has a toddler at home on council, and that is, in and of itself is challenging. I'm probably one of the youngest ones in the region. Mr. Mayor, you're old enough to be my grandpa, and everybody else on council is old enough to be my dad. So times are changing. Change is hard. I get that. I don't like a lot of changes too. I find there's a lot of distracting things that we do in council. Sometimes you call us different names and they aren't even our names. That's distracting. So, you know,
Point of order, let's stick with the issue.
well, if we're talking about
Thank
things
you.
that are distracting, I
I understand that, Counselor, but we're talking about iPhones. Let's stick with the iPhone
okay.
use.
If at any time my iPhone use or my iPad use is distracting to anybody, please let me know. Because the residents in my ward like what I do on Facebook and like my social media updates. I don't want to be offensive and disrespectful in the council chambers. I feel like I follow along quite well with all the multiple things I have going on in my life. So that's it. I will be supporting the motion, and I agree with the mayor that it should be very limited.
Thank you. If I can just say one thing. I agree with Counselor Bjorkman, like tonight, he had a situation where it was in there. I never even thought of that, Counselor. But I have to agree with Mayor McDermott. It has been abused. We've all seen it abused here. And I think this is where he's going with it. It has to be stopped. And I think we all agree with that. You know, there's limited use, it should be limited use in council chambers. I agree if there's an emergency, I agree with you, Councillor Bondi, but I also agree with the mayor. I mean, it has been abused. We've all seen it. So, you know, it's come to light now, and hopefully as a council, we correct the problem. Thank you. And thank you, Your Worship. Your Worship?
As a mover of the motion, I have the last chance, right? Okay. Our council member here, I wasn't naming names and wasn't doing anything, but she sure brought me up.
Your Worship, please, two wrongs don't make right. So
I know
let's
they don't.
just stick to the issue.
Excuse
Thank
me.
you.
You don't even know what I'm saying. Counselor, I'm sorry I offended you by bringing this up tonight. It wasn't only aimed at you, it was our whole council. But because you did put something on Facebook, you asked me to speak with you. I'll speak with you right now. That 24th meeting, you sat right there, and I sat right there. I made a statement. You didn't question my statement. You put it on Facebook that I was wrong. You were wrong, Mr. Mayor. We have a clerk and the CAO sitting right here. That's why they're here. If I'm wrong, or you're wrong, or he's wrong, we will get the right answer from those two people and/or administration. But you didn't talk to me that night. You put it onto Facebook, and everybody's down my throat now because of that. You know, so I want to thank you very much for trying to make me look bad. 26 people sent Facebook things when you were on the radio. 26 replied back to it. A friend of mine took it off Facebook because I hate that thing. 25 of them agreed with the town, my position, and one disagreed with me. You know, those people out there want us doing, I got them if you want to read them, any of you, I have those. They want us doing the things that we're hired for, sir. That's all I'm saying.
Okay, Your Worship,
They want us hired.
let's call the question.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Okay,
I understand where you're going.
And I'm finished.
Okay,
When
thank
I'm
you.
finished, and I'm sorry if you take offense, but I've been taking offense for a long time, you know. to things
Your Worship,
that don't happen.
let's call the motion.
Okay, I'm trying to put this thing to bed so it's not brought up again next meeting, sir. Go ahead, I'm finished, thanks.
Call the motion. You made the motion. Is there a seconder to the motion? And all in favor of the motion? Approved. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Larry. Thank you, sir.
15.1.2 was a notice of motion presented on August 8th by Councillor Vokes in regards to moving the caboose from the train station. As Councillor Vokes isn't present this evening, would it be Council's desire to table this motion?
Yep, Councillor Bonnie, supported by postpone it.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. And could we go all three of them? Did he have all three?
So, Your Worship, that would be also 15.1.8.
Yeah, okay.
Your Worship,
That-
just, we need the date too. We're going to postpone it to September 5th.
Okay, right.
That needs to
Okay,
go.
Councillor Bonnie, right? Okay, both of those. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
15.1.3 is a notice of motion from August 8th presented by Councillor Bondi in regards to, in regards to hosting budget meetings in rotating locations throughout the municipality. Moved by Councillor Bondi.
Councillor Bonnie? Yes. Support? Okay,
Thank you. It's pretty straightforward, and I think we can include Colchester pretty soon when the Colchester Harbor Restaurant is renovated into a community room. Just for transparency and just to bring budget meetings closer to all residents in our municipality. And since we have the facilities, it's at no cost to us. So I just think it would be good and great for our residents to have budget meetings in the county. That's all. Pretty straightforward.
and for discussion? Councillor Bjorkman?
Yes, I just have a question to administration as far as the different buildings that we would be looking at, the McGregor Community Center, the Community Center in Harrow. They'll have the tools that we would need to do all of our overheads, and that would be no issue to do that, so that's a great idea. Thanks.
Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
15.1.4 is a notice of motion from August 8th presented by Councillor Snively that administration be requested to prepare a report on initiatives the town could pursue to encourage further residential development in Ward 4. Moved by Councillor Snively.
And supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Councillor Snively.
Thank you, Your Worship. This is pretty straightforward. We have lowered development fees in Ward 4 by 50%. It really has done nothing, and I understand the property north on Walker by Colio, they did stormwater management. If I'm right or wrong there, I'm pretty sure they did stormwater management all right. But anyways, they're working on it. But I understand things are on hold again. And I'm concerned about the development in Ward 4. Ward 3, where I live, there's a lot of new homes going up, and this ward here is in good shape. We're 10 minutes from Windsor here, and that's an advantage, okay? But the town of Harrow itself is hurting. And I heard from different people about condos, and I'm hearing from, I read an email today that there's no demand. It doesn't look like there's a demand for condos in Harrow, but we lost a lot of senior residents in Harrow, and they've gone east. And it's very concerning. It's very concerning. And it's just not senior development I'm looking at. And there's a demand because one lender loan has 60 pre-approvals. I got that information at a chamber meeting, and that's just one lender. So there is a need for development in Ward 4. And we tried the development fees at 50%. It didn't work. Through information that was passed down to me, one big developer there said, why would I finish in Harrow when I go Leamington and get 0% there? So that's my concern, okay? And I'd like to see some more development in Harrow. We have room, it's already zoned, and just to entice it, I'm looking at 18 months, just for residential. 18 months, if we could bring it down to 0%. And I've talked to a couple residents here in Essex itself, some of the players, and they didn't really object to it either. So they know Ward 4 is hurting. We have commercial businesses. We had 3 new ones. Well, one is just relocated, but we had 2 new ones open, we had a couple close. So residential growth supports commercial. So I'm looking for support, and I'd like to have a report come back to us to see what it would cost us in the long run to do this, okay? And maybe we can go further discussion at the next council meeting on this one. Thank you.
Okay. Any further discussion? Councilor Bonnie? Okay. Yep. That's it? Okay. All in favor? Motion carries.
15.1.5 is a notice of motion from the August 8th meeting presented by Councillor Snively that administration be requested to prepare a report on the feasibility of holding an annual summer event at the harbor, similar to the recent Colchester 225 and Get Your Red White On events. Moved by Councillor Snively.
Supported by Councilor Bonnie. Councilor Snively.
We have no report back on that? Nothing.
No, I think.
Everybody, it's vacation time. I'll keep this very short, very short. I've talked to Councillor Bjorkman on this, and I'm sure Councillor Bondi would help too. I'm more in favor. I'll go out and raise money, you know, with a couple of councillors. It was a great event. I'll say very quickly, it was a great event, and we had a lot of response from that event, a lot. And I know the barge alone was 10 grand. I'm looking at maybe next year we can do away with that, maybe do it off the end of the pier or on the beach, have the people up on the cliff and on the dock itself. But it was a great, great event, and I think the public is looking forward to doing it on a yearly basis. And the wineries benefited from it. It was just a great, great event, and I think this is something as a council, and I'm not asking the ratepayers to pay for it. I'd like to do it through fundraising, okay, and I'm sure we can do it, but I need some help from council to approach these businesses and individuals to put this on, and I'm sure we can do it. But I'd like to have a report come back. What was the end cost on the barge and the fireworks? Okay, that's what I'm looking at. That's the big ones. The rest, the music and that stuff there, the cost wasn't that much. So. But let's get a total cost. Let's get a total cost. But I'm mainly concerned about the fireworks and the barge. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further? Councilor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, Councillor Snively, you know, I thought it was great. We had nothing but positive comments from it, but I think I would take this one step further and say that we should probably have a committee put together, not just to have a report back. We're going to find out how much the costs were. Those will all come in. But we really do need to decide if this is what we're going to go after. Then we need a committee with a couple of councillors, administrator, and let's get some people from the Colchester area and put that together and go after a plan. So I think we need actually more than just than a report. We all need to get together, start talking about it, get an idea of what we want, and do it that as opposed to just having a report come back to us.
Thank you, sir. Councilor Snively.
Yeah, further to that, yeah, I agree with Councillor Bjorkman, but I really want to know what the cost, the cost is, that's the driving force, I think. If we know what the cost is, and then, yes, I agree with what you're saying, we should form a committee, but we got to have that cost so we have something to drive towards. So, thank you.
They're working on that. Councilor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I agree that the order of operations should be getting the cost first. And also, what are the costs that we don't really see, right? Like, so I know that it's a lot of stress on staff. I'm not saying I don't agree with going forward with an event, but what does it mean for community services? What are we taking them away from? Because this was a one-off thing, so we were kind of just, you know, threw it out there and did it. But if we're going to continue to do events like this, then we may have to hire an event position for the summer. I don't know, right? Like, I feel like our level of service and our community services and everything is just getting so high. Like, the residents expect a lot, rightfully so, and we're doing so much. And our staff, I feel like we're like an engine and we're going like full out. So maybe we have to look at bringing in staff for that too, because Because how much can we expect out of our staff? And I don't want to throw on an event and then have, the ball diamonds not kept up and the grass not cut because everybody's planning the event, right? We have to have our cake and eat it too. So what are the costs in terms of staff hours too? So we can see. And then at that point, then we can get the committee together. And the committee might be able to take what the staff have done and run with it. Kind of like the Fun Fest, right? So.
For that. All in favor? Motion carries.
15.1.6 is a notice of motion from August 8th, presented by Councillor Bondi, that town and consultant-led surveys include demographic information so that the town can be advised as to the collection of information from all segments.
Moved by Councilor Bondi, supported by Councilor Bjorkman. Councilor Bondi.
Thank you. So late at night, I was thinking about when we collect information on pool feasibility studies or ward boundary reviews, I'm thinking of the people that come to the meetings, and I'm thinking of the people that don't come to the meetings. So it just could be basic, but I think if we can collect some information, it might be helpful to us. And the information, I would just love to see some age categories, and I would love to see male and female, because at the end of the day, we might find out that all our results are from 80% women over 65 and up. Okay, so what is that telling us? That's telling us that we're not marketing to young men, we're not marketing to young women. So to me, it's a big part of an overall picture of we are trying to reach out and market ourselves to our residents. Are we missing different age groups? Are we missing 25-year-old men? Are we missing 25-year-old women? Are we missing 65-year-old men? Are we missing 65-year-old women? Because I want to have diversity in opinions, and I want to represent everybody. But without any information, we're kind of going in the dark, right? We could virtually have a survey come into town hall, and it could be filled out by all women, and we wouldn't even know. So I think it's important, right? And then if we find out that 80% of the surveys are filled out by women, then we know we have to go get some more men to participate. Then we know we have to market more to men, whether that be, I don't know, in barber shops or cafes where men hang out. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there because I think it's important information to have. And once we have that information, we can look at it and say, okay, now what? But right now we have nothing, if that makes any sense to anybody. It made sense to me at like 12 o'clock at night one night.
Mr. Nepsey, our acting CEO.
Through your worship, Councillor Bonnie, I think this is one of those items that really is an operational issue and is not going to impact a decision of council. So this is one of those items that I think could have been handled quickly and is really not going to impact town business in order for us to do that. Anytime we do a survey, we'll simply ask them to place those categories on there, maybe including ward data as well, and that'll give us some more information that way. So.
Do you think they could have got it done?
Anything further? All in favor? Motion carries.
I'd like to remove this notice of motion.
15.1.7? Yep. Okay. Item 16 on the agenda, any reports from council members this evening?
Start at far end. Councilor Bjorkman.
Thank you, Your Worship. I wanted to just a few notes on the past week. We had the AMO conference. It was attended by the mayor, the deputy mayor, our CAO Don Hunter, and myself. It was in Ottawa, and was a very good convention, very informative. We'll be bringing a report forward of the things that we learned in different breakout sessions, but I just wanted a quick to let you know that we did meet with 4 of the ministers with the province, the Attorney General, the Minister of Education, the Minister of Community, and the Minister of Tour, Sports, and Culture. Very good meetings that we were able to attend. Sometimes there were 3 of us that were in there too. One of them, all 4 of us attended. We were met very well in all those meetings, and were able to make our points and receive some good information from all of them. The Exhibitors Hall was terrific, just filled with the latest tools and amenities for municipalities, everything from insurance to asphalt and everything in between. So all the latest cutting-edge stuff was very good to see. And then the breakout sessions that we could attend, you would have a number of them. There'd be 6 of them at a time, a couple times a day. The ones Sherry wasn't there, so I attended the increasing participation and equitable representation of women and minorities. It was very, very good, very informative. Another as balancing climate change with a millennial's perspective, which was good for me because I've got a couple younger kids and I understand them just a little bit more now. And then the sharing economy and its relationship to municipalities and what they're trying to do to make their sharing economy a little more mainstream and actually work with municipalities to pay their share in taxes and things. So a number of different things, a number of different perspectives to take in. Went very well, and I thought we learned a lot there. So we'll have a report coming back in a couple of meetings. Thanks.
Sure. Councillor Snively. No, Councillor Bundy. And I'll highlight some of my things. I'll just say one of the ministers, when we went into the room, wow, brought back memories to her, because good thing Steve Bjorkman did go, because they went back 35 years ago, and wow, don't think she didn't listen to us. I'll tell you, they were, when we finally got them apart, the two of them. So I'm sure we're going to do more than benefit from that meeting, going back 35 years ago. Wow. Thank you, sir.
Item 17, any announcements this evening?
Councillor Bundy.
Thank you, Mr. Nair. It's on our agenda. I just wanted to get it out there to the public. Tuesday, September 5th, Council will be receiving the report on the ward boundary review, but Council has scheduled a separate meeting Monday, September 11th, to have a special meeting on the ward boundary review. So decisions will not be made on September 5th. Decisions could possibly be made on September 11th, but it's good to get the word out there about the September 11th meeting, because that's going to be the big one.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, I agree with Councillor Bondi. We have to have more of the public put input into these. You know what, we had, 20, 25 people at these meetings. And I'm getting some emails now from residents about the ward boundary. Somehow, I don't know if administration could do anything to maybe inform the public more how to get them out there, because 20, 25 people is, and this is a big decision. This is a big decision. And the public should have input in it. And it's sad when you go to a meeting, you see 20, 25 people there. That doesn't say a lot for the municipality to participate in something that we're representing the people. We are representing the people out there. They should have input. So I just want to put that out. If there's any way at all we can entice people to get to these meetings and put their input in. So,
I can put
thank
it
you.
on my Facebook.
Thank you, sir. Oh, that's all? Just to me. Well, one announcement, I will be going on vacation. They moved it up a day on me, so I will be out of town on first thing tomorrow morning, and I won't be back for the 163rd Harrow Fair. So don't forget the Harrow Fair, 163. Wow. That's Labor Day weekend. So pies will be on sale Thursday night, I believe. So mark that in your calendars. Labor Day weekend, 163rd Harrow Fair. Best fair in probably the whole, I don't know, Canada, but Ontario anyways. Thanks. Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, and let's not forget the fish fries at the Legion in Harrow Island, Friday nights. Thanks.
Okay.
Okay. 18.1, bylaws for third and final reading. Bylaw 1628, being a bylaw regulating the erection of signs in the town of Essex, and this was in regards to 2849 County Road 20.
By Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Bylaw 1631, being a bylaw to authorize the execution agreement between the town and the Corporation and City of Windsor in regards to Pathway to Potential 2017.
Moved by Councillor Snively and supported by Councillor Bondi. Questions? On favor? Carries.
Bylaw 1632, to authorize the execution of agreement between the Corporation of the Town of Essex and 1476286 Ontario Limited. This was the Auxilium Group agreement with fire services.
Moved by Councillor, what's your name again? Bjorkman. No, I'm kidding you. Supported by Councillor Bondi. Any questions? On favor? Carries.
Bylaw 1634, to confirm the proceedings from the August 8th regular council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Bondi, supported by Councillor Snively. Questions? On favor? Carries.
Under agenda item 18.3.1 is bylaws for first and second reading is 1635 being a bylaw to confirm the proceedings of this August 21st regular council meeting.
Councillor Snively, supported by Councillor Bjorkman. Questions? On favor? Motion carries. Looking for adjournment. One. Councillor Bjorkman and Bondi, thank you very much. All in favor? Motion carries. Have a great evening, everyone, and